First, seconds, performing, non-performing? What the f***? Note buyers, when it seems like you're in this business alone, know Chase, Robert, and the rest of their tribe are at it every week. They're bringing updates from their own note businesses as they work to find, fund, and finish deals. Follow along as they share their grassroots education with you, tuition free. If you'd like to know more about what they do and to download the entire back catalog, check out NoteMBA.com. Now, here are your hosts, Chase Thompson and Robert Woods.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to show 12, episode 12. We've made it to the Dirty Dozen. I'm very excited. I don't know why, but I got really pumped in the moment. I think it might have something to do with like coming up being next show being the Baker's Dozen. And I'm a big baker.
Notemba Dozen.
The Notemba Dozen. If you are not familiar with the Notemba inside joke, sorry. You'll have to meet us at a conference and we can talk about it. Or you could just think through the name. But anyway, welcome to show 12. We're very excited that you're here joining us today. We've got a lot of things to dive into today. How are you, Robby? How you doing, brother?
I am fantastic. I feel like I'm catching back up. I did elect to not go out to NIS, the Note Investors Summit in San Diego this week, which I wish I was going, but I'm mentally very happy I'm staying here catching up on some much needed administrative work.
I'm literally in the same boat. I had to change my flights to go out to San Diego next week for another event instead of flying out tomorrow. So in the same boat, wish I could be there. I actually just got an email, about dress code and what have you. Sorry about it, Travis. I doubt you listen to the show. Travis Tolstrom, by the way. What is it? Capital Group, the one that he heads up, the NIS. I'm sorry.
I love Capital Grill.
You love Capital what?
Capital Grill.
Capital Grill. I've never heard of it.
The chain like steakhouse?
Never heard of it. They don't have them here in Texas, I guess.
What was the dress code, just out of curiosity?
Business casual and skirts, so you would have been fine. So.
Skirts, I can't argue that. Our event on Sunday, I'm flying out on Sunday. I do like the come as you are approach to that one, so I will be dressed as the V-neck capitalist if anybody needs me.
Oh, I love it. I will also be flying out there on Sunday, so that'll be good. Alrighty, so first thing that we wanted to talk about was a big part of the show last week, show 11. Check it out if you haven't already, and that is you bringing on an assistant. Did it happen?
It did. I went through some resumes. And I did a couple brief phone interviews and then actually met up with a gal I had gone to high school with. She's a few years younger than myself, and she has been a homemaker for the last few years, but we got together, and prior to that, she was actually a legal secretary and doing a bunch of executive admin stuff for a legal firm, and the skill set parallels extremely well to interfacing with, I feel, my servicers, my attorneys, and the borrowers if need be.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, I love it. And you said you went through a couple of rounds. Now, this is surprising only because a portion of our show is, we like to talk about and we like to make sure we're setting up our lives the way we want them, and it's that lifestyle design portion. And I think a lot of people would be surprised that you didn't go the VA route.
Well, I didn't.
I'm not surprised because I think I know what you were going for, but I think some people will be surprised to hear that.
Well, there were a few reasons. One, to your comment of me needing a Pepper Potts.
Right.
I wanted somebody that I can trust with my birth certificate, social security number, all my bank accounts, and my credit cards.
Lovely. Nice. That's why I'm not your assistant. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, it's kind of daunting. I had a conversation with a family member, and I was like, in all essence, it's going to be, I'm just going to give everything to her and be like, here you go. So there's a lot of trust up front. And I figure, why not? It's easier to live my life with a positive expectation than worrying that somebody's going to run off with the ones and zeros that are in my Bank of America account. So, yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm actually really excited to have somebody coming on. And I think I'm excited for two parts. One, because I know there's going to be so much stuff I can get off my desk. I've been doing accounting for the last 3 days. But really, also, it's going to be another opportunity to teach this business directly to one person in a completely different way. And I think I'm more motivated to do it because, one, I know I'm going to benefit directly from everything she learns as opposed to like just generally teaching people. And I think it can have like a long-term impact for her as well. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Oh, no, that's fantastic. And just so we don't have to keep referring to her as the assistant, can we have her name, first name?
Stacey. Stacey will be my new, I think we haven't decided. I got to order business cards. I'm going to go with executive admin. Is that appropriate? What should her business card title be?
I think maybe you start there and then you branch out. Like she could be like, business badass or something. I don't know. I mean, I think executive administrator, I guess, right? Yeah.
I kind of think I should give her a funny business name, like a title.
Oh, first of all, I 100% think that would be fantastic.
It's like, why be so uptight and be like executive admin?
I think maybe find out like what the number 2 for like Warren Buffett. What is his, does he have somebody that would be really great? Like if he's, like somebody, Richard Branson, does he have like a right arm that like has a special title? That's what I would try to find out. Do just a quick Google search, see if you can find something. If not, go with the other. I mean, now you have all this free time because you have an assistant. The very least you could do would be give her a sweet title.
They're like, what'd you do today? I was like, spent 2 hours thinking about a title for my new assistant. Like, was that productive? And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I didn't have anything else to do. She was doing the accounting while I was doing that.
I was going to say, is that tax write-offable, the time spent doing that? That's cool. So another piece from last week's episode, we were talking about a Florida foreclosure BK situation that we've now talked about 3-4 times on the show. I don't know the full numbers. What is the update there? You had an expected court date or something?
Yeah, no. So we actually, 2 things. I'll address that separately. This specific one we talked about last week was the double BK, the double Chapter 13 bankruptcy filer. And he had gotten in touch with my creditor's bankruptcy attorney and given me his number. So I reached out to him and we actually worked out a pretty good deal because, I leave Sunday and I'm traveling for a month and I've got a bunch of stuff going on between San Diego and Vegas and I'm going up to Ohio for some family stuff. I agreed with him. He is going to leave the appliances, the brand new appliances that he purchased just a couple months ago, and pay me $1,200, which is market rent, for 30 days from the date of the foreclosure auction. So we agreed that I would release him from his deficiency judgment if he left it basically broom clean with the stainless steel appliances, and I got my check by this Friday.
All right, then. That sounds like a good deal for everybody involved.
Well, so the challenge was, do I let a tenant stay in there after a foreclosure? And he knew how many days he was legally allowed to be there under the guise of, bankruptcy or under foreclosure law.
Everyone would say no.
Yeah, well, I don't think I should leave him in there a long time.
Right, yeah.
But what I'm going to do is I'm going to post. I talked to him about it. I explained that I'm going to post the eviction stuff like you would normally, so that if he does try to play any games with me, I'm already I'm in line basically to do the appropriate eviction.
And he just was basically, he said what I probably would have said in that scenario, which is like, I understand. Right?
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah. So I think actually it sounds that funny, but it turned into a win-win. He's getting 30 days to get his stuff packed up, prepare, tell people he's moving, as opposed to making it look like he got booted out and there's no postings on there, or the sheriff knocking on his door with the locksmith. So I think it keeps kind of, from a dignity perspective, that intact. And, I didn't really want to argue with the guy. We went back and forth. He wanted to do $1,000 and I told him, market rent was $1,200. That's what it was going to cost him. But other than that, it was a win-win situation.
And, well, I guess yes, no question. And that's a lot of what we set out to do within this business and within what it is that we try to do, right? Whether we're creating opportunities to write off debt, right? Help people in situations they're in, or in situations like this where, you would have preferred to not have someone file twice, Chapter 13 BK, and you would have preferred, it might not come to this or whatever it is. But even when it got here, there was still opportunity to leave him in as best a position as you possibly could.
Exactly. Well, I figure he probably cost me about $5 extra grand with the delays and the extra attorney stuff. And, could I legally go after that, especially now knowing he's back gainfully employed, he's been saving his money? Yeah, I could. But I also already know this has caused him more than enough stress. And he when he finally got a hold of me and I finally got to talk to him, was more than happy to try to work something out.
So it cost you, say, some money, but it might have cost him some time and years spent of stress. Like, like how they talk about like stress takes years off your life or whatever. Not to say this guy's
I could have covered an amazing an amazing month of vacation in Costa Rica off that $5,000, just sitting in a hammock sipping Imperials. But, I'm still going to make a couple bucks, so I can't complain.
I almost got completely sidetracked, daydreaming about the potential for sipping Imperials in a hammock, but it's all good.
That was where I went too. I actually had the perfect visualization of it. Sorry, we digressed.
We digressed so hard. We apologize. Okay, so what's up next? We've got some really great kind of bookkeeping done from the last episode. What's up next?
I got two things. Well, I'm still waiting to hear back from those I'm still waiting to get a response on the seconds that I put a bid in on. And I'm anxious because, I'm kind of excited to get a second and cross it off the list. And
I'm very excited to start.
Proverbial cherry. Is that appropriate? Can I say that?
Totally.
Okay.
I'm very excited about your potential for diving into seconds. I've been, wanting to do it, just have not had any come across my desk that were something that I was wanting to do or whatever the case is. But in one of the groups that we are in, someone had posted about how they picked up, gosh, I can't even remember how many seconds, but it was basically, what was it, 5-10 cents on the dollar or what have you. So in one of the mutual friends that you and I have that does quite a few seconds, she relayed a story to me where she picked up about 20 in one given pool. And the first one that paid out pretty much paid most of the pool off. So I was just like, wow, that, there's potentially the other like half of those could just be totally, wasted. And you still have a very awesome opportunity with 9 other deals. So they're interesting. They're very interesting to me.
Yeah, I think that's the appeal for a lot of the people in the second space is they know as soon as they get a pool, because here's the other thing I got advice. So I got to back up. I've only put bids in on 2, even though I've been told I should buy a pool.
Because it's a crapshoot, right? Is that what I'm understanding?
So I might come back with a different story. So in like another couple months, if these seconds close and you hear me complaining, just make sure you kindly remind me that I was told in advance I should be buying a pool and not onesie twosies.
Is it because it's harder to do the due diligence, or is it because you were straight up in second position? Is that really the big bit?
For which part? Why I should buy in pools?
Yeah. Why is it such a crapshoot? Because of the position you're in within the chain, or is it because you can't do as much due diligence? It sounds to me like you can do the same amount or more.
No, I think you can sometimes do more because they're checking credit and pulling stuff on the first. What I think it has to do with is a lot of the seconds players that we know, they're buying all types of seconds when they buy these pools. So the 2 that I put offers in theory, have enough equity to cover the first and the second and have a couple dollars left over, assuming there's not 10 years of arrears on the first, which, 2008 to now, maybe there's 7 years. So it might have ate away a little bit of it.
We'll find out.
When you look at the numbers, they look pretty safe that there is some equity into my second position. So, they wouldn't be able to be stripped away by a Chapter 13. They look unique. And I think it's I think if I get them both, I'm spending somewhere around $20,000. So it's not a ton of money. And it, gives me a couple to look at. So we'll see what that happens. But, like I said, no response from the seller yet. Hopefully we get some positive news within the next week.
That's awesome. I'm really excited about it. I mean, genuinely bringing basically another arm to potentially what we, what we're doing in terms of an investment, position. That's awesome. And then also just some other strategies to bring to the show. Very pumped about it.
So, and I have a building your network tip, unique type of thing. So we have one of our properties now that I acquired post an HOA foreclosure. So we have title to it, but we're still having to foreclose out the loan to clean up a second on it because we actually own the first. There was a squatter in the unit. So I went and gave out gift cards to all the neighbors with my business card. And was like, hey, here's the Target gift card. If you see anything kind of crazy, would you mind giving me a call? So for $60, I got a very low level of technology security system.
You got like some eyes on the property. Very nice.
Yeah, but so here's what happened. It turned out great. And this is just the world being amazing and so abundant in giving. there is a guy that lives above this property who happens to run project management for a large property management company that does REO remodels for banks.
Shut your mouth. That's
and
fantastic.
I was like, yeah, man. I was like, this thing's in pretty rough shape. Like, I've got some good contractors on the East Coast of Florida, but I haven't really built up a good team directly in the city. And he's like, oh, man. He's like, yeah, I can get 3 or 4 guys in here next week. He's like, I'll email you a scope of work. You just fill it out, go through it, and then I'll get some numbers in there for you and get you a couple bids from my guys. And I was like, did that really just happen? Because it needs some work. You know, you could get it cleaned up. It could be livable for maybe 6-7 grand. It could be nice for 15. But to have this guy just say, yeah, I'll take care of it for you. Just get it to me. And I'm like, and it was kind of funny because I even had to tell him to make sure he pads the bid so he gets paid a little bit.
You know what? So I don't know what we're going to title this show yet. A lot of podcasters already know when they start shows, but to me, this one's like, you know, rainbows and horseshoes and butterflies and unicorns. I mean, when you're out there doing work and actually taking action, it seems difficult for things to completely just fall off the rails. I mean, like the past few weeks for both of us, it seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but as we just continue to take action, continue to just basically just hit against the universe to try to make a dent and try to do some really good things, it just seems to keep working.
They do get easier. Now, the thing about that, though, is expectations.
Sure. But you weren't expecting that conversation.
I was not.
So,
and it just happened from being positive. But, you know, there are times where you have conversations with people and your expectations, you're kind of like, oh, you got to question yourself. Did I communicate good enough in different courses? So that's why when these things happen, you're just like, oh, okay, it's a free dessert.
Right.
You didn't even have to ask for it.
It's like front row parking whenever you pull. I get it. I'm just saying that in the general sense, I get, and I'm sure other people get, and I see the blog posts about the top 10 things, super successful people do. And number 9 is always like keeping negative people out of their lives or whatever. But that being said, even if you're actively trying to do that, I still continually see, as everyone else does, you know, people crying or complaining about life or, oh, it's Monday again or whatever. My only point being is that it's another freaking day that you have to be able to do some incredible shit, and there's nothing that you should be crying about. The fact that you're even here, living right now with an iPhone, and you have something in your pocket that is more powerful than anything that they had computation-wise like 3 decades ago.
Didn't we talk about this the other day where he said J.D. Rockefeller, you know, he's the richest guy in the world, but we, even as a middle-class person, not us, I mean, I live pretty well, but right. The average middle-class person in the United States lives better and has a better quality of life than J.D. Rockefeller did.
That's what I'm saying. Is it just, I get it. It can all go right. Your whole day can suck, and that's fine. But today's Monday when we're recording this. You guys will listen to this on a Wednesday, but I've just seen a lot of groaning, a lot of the hashtag Mondays or whatever. And so, sorry, off the soapbox, it just kind of, that was one of those things that to me, listening to you talk about that, just kind of like lit that fire of all that crap I had to saw today and all that other stuff.
Well, it's been good. So let's get to an educational point. Oh. I have had a few questions come up regarding an ROI calculator that I use.
We've brought it up in the show probably 2 or 3 times.
Yes. So if anyone is completely not handy with Excel or doesn't know what I'm talking about, it's really just a simple spreadsheet on the surface that I use to run down any asset that I'm looking at purchasing. And I've got a whole host of numbers that goes into it, and I have been asked for it. And it's not that I don't want to share it, but there's 2 parts to it. One, if I share my ROI calculator, you're going to look at it and not know what the hell to put into it. And you're either going to screw it up and lose money, or I'm going to spend an hour having to explain somebody how to use it. But beyond that, I think everybody that's in this business needs to create their own.
That's like give a man a fish, right?
No, not even that. Here's the reason why I say to it is if I just give somebody an ROI calculator, they just get in, they plug and play. If you're new to the business, you need to create your own ROI calculator. And the reason is because you're going to have to think through the whole process of analyzing an asset. And you're going to it's one more time, one more level of practice. And what's good about that is the spreadsheet that I use is not static. I've changed it. I've changed it multiple times. And I think each individual investor, depending on how they evaluate notes, needs to look at what is their number one goal. For me, everybody knows I'm a very different investor. I'm trying to build a rental portfolio. I am not the biggest fan of talking on the phone to borrowers, and I try to stay away from modding loans. That comes from a couple different places. One, I don't need rapid cash flow. I'm looking for a long-term growth in a portfolio of assets. And to me, even though getting a modified loan is an amazing ROI, it's a depreciating asset because the principal is being paid down every time they make an on-time payment, and you have reinvestment risk. That's just my opinion. But to talk about the ROI calculator, there are a few things I would throw out there to everybody to make sure they're paying attention to, or they write their algorithms in a few different ways. One of those big things is taxes. Now, we all know when we're looking at an asset and you're trying to evaluate it, Chase, you can agree we've got the two things. Find the value of the asset and the taxes, right?
Exactly.
So,
and you harp on taxes harder than I think most people.
Well, I harp on taxes because it's an easy thing to screw up, but it's an easy thing to get right. But what I had learned through a couple of my deals that I had bought earlier in the year last year is I wasn't evaluating the deal based on, oh, hey, Robby, you have a 12-month hold time. You're going to pay another full year worth of taxes because the odds of this guy, borrower Joe, who hasn't paid for 4 years, deciding to pay taxes this year is slim to none. So I was only saying he had $3,200 in back taxes. I didn't allocate another 12 months worth of taxes. So that's a big thing I would make sure everybody puts into their spreadsheets and thinks about and looks at.
And that's a huge thing because I don't hear too many people talk about that. And it's one of the, it can definitely eat into that ROI right up the front. I mean, in a big, big, big way.
Well, and the big other reason why I harp on, and I'm kind of saying it this way, that I think everybody needs to develop their own spreadsheet. This event that I was at last week, there was a spreadsheet made available to the group kind of just as a practice run through. And it was very good for a practice run through. But if you were using that same spreadsheet that had been presented to apply to your business, you are going to lose a shit ton of money. Because I looked at it and it was just, there were so many opportunities for things to be missed.
Was it too
very
optimistic?
Generic.
Oh, it was just generic. Okay.
Yeah, it was very optimistic. Like you've seen whenever I send out anything for like a JV investor and I'm asking for money, mm-hmm. You'll see that I send it out, and usually the very first item that's shown is the foreclosure rundown, because that's the smallest return most of the time and the longest hold time and the most expensive.
Exactly.
And a lot of these you'll see that they start with the modified loan and you see a 208% ROI.
It's so crazy.
And I'm like, that's good. But, if you're getting, if you're 8 out of 10 of your loans are modified, I mean, that's fantastic. And you're probably not listening to this and not interacting with the community because you're too busy making millions of dollars.
Out there killing it.
Which is a good thing for you. And please keep doing that if somebody forces you to listen to this episode. But for the rest of us, it's not a realistic way to look at it. So, that's where it gets to it. But, I talk about the taxes. In Florida here, we are a safe harbor state. And though this is not the only state I invest in, I would say about 50% of my energy and time and finances gets invested into this state. So look at making sure you allocate for safe harbor. And, when you get into that, a lot of people also, what you miss, excuse me, let me back up from there. When I talk about my foreclosures going into rentals, if anybody's evaluating assets like that, when you're presenting a rental return, where I struggle is I see people display a rental return as, it's a 38% ROI. Well, yeah, that's nice if it's a 38% gross ROI, but what is my net? what am I really getting? Because if you've got a $400 a month HOA fee, I can guarantee you it's not going to be anything close to that. So make sure you run separate numbers post foreclosure for what your rental ROI is going to look like. And when you're doing that, don't forget your insurance, taxes again, and your HOA fees. Plus, I would allocate some money for some repairs, appliances, some of those things that you don't know, but you can safely assume are going to be expenses you're going to get hit with when you take that property back.
Is that a lot like if you're calculating rentals and just like in a typical real estate investing strategy, if you're just not taking into things like vacancies and all these other types of things? I mean, that just seems like a gross misrepresentation if you're sending that out to potential JV partners.
Yeah, I mean, and you talk to some people use what is it? Some people use 1/8 of the year, which is I think is a little heavy in my opinion. A lot of people just use 1 month to allocate for vacancy. Plus, you've got management fees. Now, these are things that are all in my spreadsheet, but these are things that I came to evolve in my spreadsheet, which is why I think we're hitting home. So if anybody has any direct questions, one of the points we were getting at is we're not avoiding and we don't want to not help people develop their own ROI spreadsheets. And hopefully this is like one 15-minute explanation that helps people get motivated and get started and get the comfort level to open up Excel and do your own and make your own colors and design it and make it so you understand it and it's intuitive for you. Because this is something that I had to do for my business, and it makes my evaluation that much easier. It streamlines it, and it's a lot easier for me because I'm looking at these deals for myself. And I've changed it so many times, I know what to expect when I look at it. I just think that's the best way for anybody else to create their own ROI spreadsheet.
Cool. Total side note, for anybody that is not an Excel just champion, which I was not, I went and learned about it this route, which I'm about to tell you about. They're not like sponsored of the show. We don't get paid or anything like that by recommending it. But if you need some assistance in an Excel, just kind of understanding it, way, I learned from lynda.com. It's lynda.com. You can pay them, and they have just a million courses across all kinds of different programs. I learned a little bit of Photoshop and some other things there, but I learned a ton taking their Excel, beginner, intermediate, and advanced, and all this other kind of stuff. It is not expensive. You can spend, 1 month diving in, getting all your Excel taken care of, and I guarantee you it will make you back 100-fold by learning how to use that and using that as a source for building up things like your spreadsheet for your business and things like that. It very much is one of those things where you take an opportunity to, it seems strange, but you grow your business through that education platform. Check it out, lynda.com. Huge, huge, huge place to go for learning any types of softwares.
I love it. Oh, so one other final education note. I've got a meetup group in Orlando that I just started last month. I did my first webinar, and it was a real success. There were 4 of us on the call, so we all have to start somewhere. But so what was interesting is, Chase, you and I are always reading, and in the call, one of the gentlemen on the call had asked if there were any good books on note investing. And I was like, I don't know of any. I haven't seen any. I know some of the people that I know in this space are writing them or looking into writing them. And then an individual told me, and I know the name, Gordon Moss, though I haven't
saw
had any.
It just today. I was gonna say it, but I saw it just today. Go ahead.
So yeah, I don't have any interaction with Gordon. I've never followed any of his stuff, but one of the guys on the call told me Gordon Moss had a book, and it's called Performance Anxiety. It says Create a Fortune in Investing in Non-Performing Real Estate Loans by Gordon Moss. I actually paid for this. It just showed up from Amazon today. So I am going to do my best. Let me see. It is...
While you're checking the book titles, I literally just ordered it today because I just read something about that just today.
So it's 154 pages. So I will read this week, and next week from Las Vegas. Will I still be in San Diego?
No.
I'll still be in San Diego.
Yeah, we'll still be in San Diego. Yeah.
So I will have an update for you guys on next week on this book, Performance Anxiety, by Gordon Moss, and they'll be we'll put a link in the show notes if anybody else wants to check it out, and maybe we can have a chat about this next week.
Yes, definitely. One last housekeeping tip. We've had a few people comment on the site. By the way, if you're not diving into the comment section on the website, shame on you. We're there. We're ready to help, answer questions, chat it up. We've had a few people comment on the site about the question from show 10 with Bill by Mel about the similarities or what was the same between Bill by Mel, Jared Leto, and Jake Gyllenhaal. And the answer is they were go for it.
They were the key actors in the movie that Bill by Mel produced while he was out in Hollywood.
That is amazing. For those that don't know, Highway. Well, the movie Highway, but Jared Leto, and they were all like on the Oscars last night, so it reminded me that we needed to do the housekeeping for today.
Well, Brandon Lee out of North Carolina is the one that had the right answer. So, Brandon, thanks for listening. We appreciate the support and the extra effort to shoot us the email with an answer with your research.
And we've had a few people that had my guess, which was I thought they all went to film school, either at the same time or the same film school like in New York or something like that. We were all wrong. I'm sorry, everyone. I don't think I led you astray, but I think maybe some sort of weird mental way I did. So there you go. We appreciate you guys. That was our first contest, and I think it was pretty successful.
I think it went good. Oh, one other question. We had this come up, and we only talked about it for a second, so maybe I shouldn't do it on the show. But we had some individuals ask us about not specific deals, but if we had deals we could give them or show them. So if anybody would mind just writing in to us, ask at Note MBA if there's any interest in us like procuring a deal and putting it on the website. I know there's a lot of sources out there everybody's buying from. We would love to stay informational, which is what we're doing. But if we can also help in that way and maybe present a note once a month or something that we've bought, and we go specifically over it, or to talk to somebody if they're wanting to JV a deal just to get into the business and then really figure out. So if anybody has any interest in that, give us some feedback. We'd love to hear your opinions, whether to dive in and go for it or kind of stay away from that.
Cool, guys. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much for listening. As always, like you said, drop us a line at ask@notemba.com if you have a question, if you want to talk about the topic we covered today in this episode, or something you want to see us cover in the next episodes. We appreciate you guys so much. And yeah, thanks, guys. We'll catch you next time.
Have a good one.